You're listening to In the Den with me, Jason Harborough, and our head coach at Swinton Lions, Paul Wood. We've talked about Swinton, obviously. We've talked about Paul's career in rugby league and the people who've inspired him. And rugby league's an interesting sport, Paul. We both love rugby league. It goes without saying. And it's constantly changing and it's constantly evolving. And at the moment, we seem to be going through another change. I mean, what's your view on the state of rugby league at the moment?
Yeah, it's a shame to see, sort of, there's a lot of negative publicity at the minute, isn't there, around rugby league. Obviously, there's financial negativity, press, and, decisions around refereeing and, where the game's at. But for me, since I've been involved in rugby league, it's never been any different.
No, that's not true. Yeah, it's what makes it interesting.
Yeah, it's never been any different. Honestly, there's always something going on.
Yeah.
I'd probably say though, in the last, since I started playing it from an amateur, I'd say this is probably like one of the hardest periods in rugby league. It's always faced its challenges. It's always faced its critics. There's always people who are always going to whinge and moan about the game. We get that all the time. That's in every sport. It's not just in rugby league. But yeah, it's a shame sometimes when you see the state that it's in. Me, talking from a fan's perspective, as a supporter of the sport, I watch Super League. I watch all the games. I watch the NRL. I really, really want the players to get paid as much money as they can because I do believe it's the toughest sport in the world.
Yeah.
Like, I look back now and I think, why did I do that? Well, I know why I did it. I loved it. But I think, how did I put my body through that every single week? Because now I go to the gym, and if I'm sore, I'm not going to the gym for another week.
Yeah.
Where if I was sore, nothing was stopping me from playing rugby.
No.
I've took to the training field with a broken leg, trying to get back into the team selection, and I just love the game, but I just really want the players to get what they deserve.
Yeah.
Like and whether that's financially, whether that's exposure, I just think that the athletes that we have in rugby league are phenomenal, and there's not many mindsets of a rugby league player. I believe that's why a lot of rugby league players or people involved in rugby league, when they step away from the sport, I believe it's one of the reasons they struggle, because I found when I stepped away from rugby league, there's no mindset like it.
No.
You can go into other occupations and other industries, and it's just so intense, rugby. And there's a mindset with the players is that we just get on with it. So resilient as rugby league players. But yeah, it's a shame to see where the game's at now, and I'm hoping that it's going to improve for the future of, the players that are coming through now.
Because the quality of the games for me are as good as they've ever been. The spectacle of the athletes, the fitness, the strength, the speed, the ball in play is excellent. But we seem to argue around governance, and we seem to argue around how many teams and how many clubs. One of the things that I think personally that's missing from Super League at the moment is when I was watching rugby league and playing a little bit, we had personalities. Unfortunately, in many ways, those are still the personalities we use today. So Martin Afai, great player as he was, why is he still the face of rugby league? Sean Edwards, who's been out of rugby league for 25 years, he's still the guy they roll out. Jonathan Davis is doing the commentary, but he comes from the rugby union world. Not that I've got any issues with that. Why is Bevan French and Jay Field and others not on every newspaper and every TV? Because these guys are magicians with the ball. That's what frustrates me. But from your perspective, the guy who's played with some of these, I mean, you would probably play with Johns, didn't you, Matty?
Yeah. Andrew Johns,
that guy, superstar. That was all over the national press when he came and played those 3 or 4 games for Warrington. Why is that not happening today?
Not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know whether it's political or what, but we don't get the exposure that the players deserve, and we try. I think there's a lot of people doing some really good stuff with players and trying to sort of market the player away from sort of the club as well. But we just don't market ourselves that well, do we? I don't know whether I think the clubs are. Some of the clubs now are brilliant at marketing. I mean, you look at what Warrington put out and what Wigan put out.
Yeah.
You watch that Vegas documentary. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Great trip. I was lucky to go and loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I mean, they put some really good social media and content out with the players and stuff. But it takes time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it's got to be done collective. I think every single club's got to start pushing the players and the personalities and getting that exposure really to and I think I've been reading some stuff about how we're too humble as a sport and we need to show off a little bit more as well and create some characters. And I think with that though, it's got to be authentic. I think you can't just make somebody do something for the sake of doing it. I think you've got to tap into the right people, and I believe that there is them types of characters in the game. I think you've got some quite introverted characters who are going to struggle with that, but you've also got some extroverted characters who are going
like a Mikey Lewis type character. I mean, you don't necessarily need to love what he says or what he does, but at least he's getting some attention, isn't he?
Yeah, Jake Connor. He's always in the headlines and stuff. But yeah, I just think I'd love to see the lads get more exposure. I would, because I do generally believe that it's the toughest game in the world. To do what you do back to back and all the elements of rugby league, it's such a challenging sport. It is. I do look back and think, can't believe I did that. Especially when I see like the prop forward stood up dead ball line and the receiver kick off and then they just go and cart it into like four other men and get beat up. I think, why did I think that was a good idea?
If there's anything you could change about rugby league, be it a rule, be it anything, what would it be?
Well, this is talking with my coach's head on now. I think just the word players are staying down, play acting.
Yeah.
We get it in our league, and
never used to get that, did you? Never.
No. Players would get it whether it was late or not, and you'd bounce up on your feet. And what players are doing now, I get it because they're being strategic. They're winning a penalty. They're going down. We've played some teams this year. And it's literally the players passed and they've been it. It's literally bang, it's a split second.
Yeah.
And players are going down, but they're staying down for 5 minutes. Yeah. And it's like, you've won your penalty.
Yeah.
Come on, let's get up. And then they carry on with the game. And that stuff creeping into the game is frustrating. And that's me as a coach speaking, because it frustrates me that players are playing for those penalties. But I get it. But then don't stay down for 5 minutes, because you know that you're not injured and we can see you're not injured. And, it's the football stuff's creeping in. And my young kids, they emulate what they see on TV.
Yeah.
I watch my young lad who's 10 play football. And to be fair, he's not one of them because I've told him not to do it.
Yeah.
But some of his teammates, they get clipped around ankle. Yeah. And they stay down and they roll around like the players do on the TV. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with them. No. So you can see that, like, how influential players are on the TV, because young kids will emulate that. But I think it's creeping in rugby as well.
Yeah, understood. As we come to the end of this first edition of In the Den, it's been great to have you here today, Paul. Loved every minute of it. We've got a small but very enthusiastic band of supporters at Swinton. What's your thought of the Swinton support? How good has it been for you this season?
Yeah, I mean, I've had loads of positivity really from a lot of the fans. Look, in sport, you can't keep everybody happy. No. And everybody thinks they know the answers, but the reality is, they might not do, because they've only getting a small snippet of why decisions are made. And it always looks very easy, behind your laptop or, on your mobile phone. I don't do social media because it would annoy me too much. Yeah. But I get told, that sometimes that there's comments about this and that. And I say, well, why'd you read it? Yeah. Like, you've got to be thick-skinned. So, but my point is that I'm not going to please everyone, but I've had really a positive response, to, even the little interactions. I was going up to, to do the talk in the lounge before one of the games, and one of the supporters come up to me and went, "Paul, come here, I've got you a pack of mints for during the game." Yeah. Little things like that. Yeah. Like that, I love stuff like that. It's a little thing, and I thought, why has that guy thought of me in a shop to buy me a packet of mints? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I've had some, I went up to the lounge at the weekend, and for some reason I walked in and everyone gave me a clap and a round of applause because we got the win. Yeah. It's fantastic. I have loads of positivity. So I think they've been great. We need more, don't we? Of course we do. That's the reality is, you know, Swinton, I looked at the Swinton heritage and the history when I got this job, because I wanted to understand where the club was at. And you look at the history and the heritage, it's such a successful club. It's rugby league through and through. If you cut rugby league in half, it's going to have Swinton in it. It's got to. But we need more fans, and I get why the fan base is down, because we need our home, don't we?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we need to progress forward as a club. But we need more. We want more sort of, you know, these young, vibrant fans coming through as well through the door. So, you know, I encourage people to try and get more people. It's only going to benefit the club. And, you know, again, my job is to put a smile on the fans' faces. I'm not always going to get team selection right. I'm not always going to get the tactics right. I'm always going to give 100%. I think we've done all right this season. You know, we've made some really good decisions. But yeah, I think, you know, fans are always challenging, because you know, we 1 week you're up here and you're the best coach since sliced bread, and then you lose the week after, and everything's about, well, I saw this coming, I saw that coming. So that's just sport. I think when you're in a coach's position, I'm very stoic. Like I look at a lot of stoic philosophy, and I'm very stoic, and I don't get involved emotionally into all that stuff, because I genuinely believe in what I'm doing. You know, I've got a lot of experience as a player and as a coach. I've coached at every single level. I've coached in scholarships. I've coached in the community. I've coached at academy. I've coached in championship teams. Coached in Super League teams. Been part of coaching staffs there. I believe in my philosophy. I believe in my coaching staff that's around me. I believe in the people that, you know, I look for advice in terms of leadership. And all that stuff is to benefit this club and to benefit the fans as well. Because you know, we understand that the fans play a big part of this club, and we want to create something special for them. So, you know, everything we do, when we say one club, one vision, that includes the fans. It's not the club versus the fans. We're all in it together, and, you know, support the club as well. You know, like, again, you know, we've talked about, we're not always going to get everything right, but we get a lot of stuff right. You know what I mean? We do, with the resources that we have and the facilities that we have and where we're at as a club, we get so many things right. There's some clubs in far worse positions than us. So let's embrace what we've got, you know, because, you know, we've seen clubs fold this year, and you know, Swinton's not one of them, so we should be fortunate. Let's have a look at the gratitude and the things that we should, you know, appreciate. But like I say, you know, I've had really, really positive interactions with a lot of the fans, and you know, they've been very supportive, very, very supportive. Whether we've won big games like we did at the weekend against North Wales, and when I've lost as well, you know, people have been very realistic in terms of, you know, where we're at as a club and what we want to achieve this year. So yeah, I think, you know, I've been very, very thankful for the support this year.
Paul, thanks very much. It's been amazing to talk today. I know we talk a lot, but hopefully the fans can see behind and get to know you a bit more today, Paul. So you've been listening to In the Den. Thanks very much, Paul. Amazing.
Cheers. Thank you. Cheers.